I'm Michael Drives, and this is the 2023 Genesis Electrified G80 all-wheel drive in Verbier White Matte. The G80 Electrified is Genesis' first electric car. It didn't start out that way though. The first G80s were actually 4-cylinder and 6-cylinder cars, and then the electrified version came along, which is actually the most powerful and quickest 0 to 60 time. So Genesis was able to remove the gasoline-powered powertrain and insert dual motors at 136 kilowatts each and a large battery pack. In fact, this car will do 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds. So it is no slouch. And with the all-wheel drive and equally powerful motors front and back, it really moves. But let's take a look at the design. I want to take a look at the outside. We'll look at the cargo space, under the hood, and the interior, and then I'll give you my fabulous favorites and not so favorites about the electrified G80. Looking at the front of the Genesis G80 Electrified, you'll notice how refined it is and how clean the look is. I love Genesis 2-line design with their headlights. And this comes around here, and it actually, if you spin around the side here, you can kind of see it's on the side here with the side repeaters and the turn signals. But it's a super clean design. And while this car did originate as a gas model that was later electrified, it does have a large traditional grille, but it's very nicely done. It's sort of like almost a shield. Genesis has a name for this, a fancy name, but we'll just call it the sort of diamond grid pattern. I do not love that this is very obvious, the radar cruise control module, and it seems to have been obvious in all Genesis cars. It's like, it's not well hidden, but what is well hidden is the power port to charge your car. So the charging port is behind here if it was unlocked, and I can actually unlock it now and show you that. So if you are going to do some level 1, level 2, or level 3 charging, it's right here. So nicely integrated into the front of the car. I'll close that up for now. But just sleek, understated luxury. That's what I love about this car. It does not scream. And this car only comes in one trim. This top of the line trim, I guess you would call it. If there's only one trim, it's got to be the best, right? So it has everything. In fact, the only option this car has is the Verbier White Matte paint, and that just ticks the box of $1,500. So as tested price here, this car sticker is just a little bit over $82,000. Again, and that includes destination. And here we are on the side of the G80, and you can see that 2-line design. It continues over here in the turn signals, in these 2 LED light bars that come in here. And I also wanted you to see these gorgeous 19-inch wheels. They are unique to the electrified G80. You won't see these on the gas models. I love this because they didn't put 20s or 21s on here. They are 19s, and so they're efficient and they're smooth. And I think that's what you really want in a luxury car. And I'm tripping up the lights here. Let's see, whoop, we'll just give that a lock there. Okay, so moving around here, we've got just clean, clean, clean all the way across. There's nothing out here that screams, hey, look at me, I'm new, I'm modern. In fact, the car does not even have any electrified badging, so you cannot visually tell unless you know that this has the unique wheels to the electrified G80, that this is an electrified G80. Other than the front grille, which won't let air through, and the wheels, it's super subtle, and that's going to be timeless design-wise. Welcome to the rear end of the electrified G80. I'm going to give this a little kick under here, and we'll see if we can open the back. I learned how to do that. It's one kick. Now back here, you're in for a bit of a surprise, because it's actually very small. It's a beautiful trunk, but it has just under 11 cubic feet of space. Now, you know, this is very small. A Corvette has a larger cargo space than the G80. So when they electrified the car, they did a couple of things. They had to raise the floor a bit to allow for the battery pack to fit. And also you lost 2 cubic feet in the cargo area. So there's not fold down seats in this car, but there is a ski pass through. So it's a very small ski pass through, so you cannot have a snowboard and shove it through. It's gonna be skis. But you do have a nice netted area to secure your cargo down in here. These hinges that come down, they will not crush your bags or anything that you have in the cargo area of the trunk, because they are integrated into the liner, so they're not going to come down and mash whatever you have in there. And then you have these 2 buttons up here, which I always love, the one to put it down and one to put it down and lock it. So you've got that. And then underneath the floor back here, if I take apart the cargo net and just unclip that. I have to do that to lift up the floor. You have your level 1 charging cable, your manuals, and some additional storage. There's no spare tire, but there's a tire inflator kit with this car. Additionally, you have this handy little gadget, which is your V2L, and that's vehicle to load. This is the vehicle, and your load is whatever you want to plug in. So if you have a power outage and you have your electrified G80 in the car, you can take this handy adapter, plug it into the charging port up front, and then plug your refrigerator into it. If you're out camping, you can plug in some accessories, whatever you want, charge your laptop with this. And this sits on the outside of the car, and so you can just run an extension cord to your camping area, use an electric grill. You can be super green with electric grill, electric lighting, all of that. Super handy feature. You never know when you're gonna need this, and when you have it, it's fantastic. So I'm gonna zip this back up, put it back in the cargo area. I'm going to close this cargo area, and then we're going to take a look at the inside, because remember, seats don't fold down. It is very small. If you want cargo space, buy a Corvette. Whoever says that. But let's take a look at the inside. You know, if you're just taking this car to the country club, you can fit a pair of golf clubs in the back and you're going to be fine. But we'll spin around inside, because the true gem of this car, besides the exterior, is actually the interior. Welcome to the interior of the electrified G80. You'll notice that this model has this gorgeous sort of two-tone light, almost white with a navy. It's very nautical theme. I love this light interior. And then the reason that, you know, the white interior doesn't come all the way up into the dash is because that would be horribly reflective when you were driving. So you've got a dark color up here, light colors down below, and that's just really nice. This gorgeous wood overlaid here, not only is it beautiful, but it's sustainable. And I want to talk a bit about the sustainability of the electrified G80. So if you look at this headliner, which is really beautiful, and it's sort of an Alcantara, sort of ultra suede material, and then the A pillars and the B pillars, and then the carpets and the floor liner, that's all made from recycled PET. So recycled materials are used throughout the interior of the vehicle. The wood itself is used from discarded extra wood, so that in itself is a material reuse, which is awesome. And then the Napa leather seats, these supple Napa leather seats, they are actually dyed from a very eco-friendly process. So it's a natural dye, it's not a chemical dye. So there are some, you know, besides being an electric car and an electric car, there are sustainable attributes to the car that I think are worth mentioning. Now, another thing, when you walk in here, you step in here, you're going to notice this giant touchscreen, and I want to put it back on its home mode. I actually switched the car into something called utility mode for the shoot. And what utility mode does, and this can come in handy if you're running accessories from the V2L adapter out front, or you want to say you're at a campsite and you don't want to pitch out a tent, you just want to sleep in your car. You can do that with utility mode, and what it does is it runs the accessories off the high voltage battery. So you're not going to drain your small 12-volt battery that's up in the car. You're going to run from that large main battery that normally just powers the traction motors. So you can just basically listen to music and sit in air-conditioned splendor and recline your seat all night long, which is pretty cool. And then, you know, when you restart the car, it's going to pop out of utility mode automatically, and you're good to go. So jumping back in here into the interior, you've got this touch capacitive screen for your HVAC and your infotainment. Works very well, although I have noticed that all of a sudden I'm driving down the road and my hands are very hot, and I'm like, why is this happening, Michael? And I've apparently bumped the heated steering wheel, or I've bumped the heated seat button. So you want to be careful, because these are very sensitive. They're touch sensitive, but they're sensitive touch sensitive. Down here, you've got your rotary dial for your drive-by-wire, park, neutral, reverse, shifting, and a wheel here that will navigate this screen for your infotainment, for whatever you need. This is a touch screen, but you can use this dial. What is distracting is that they're both the same size. So as you're driving along, if you're kind of new to the car and you don't know what to feel for, you think you might be, you know, changing the volume dial, but maybe you're rotating the shifter, or you want to put it in drive, but you actually just accidentally changed the radio channel. That can happen. So I don't love that they're two exactly the same size. Now, the shifter is knurled, and the other one is sort of soft, but like a kind of like a shower temperature handle, but they could be different. So with this beautiful screen, you do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard in the Electrified G80, but what you don't have is wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. What that means is you have to run a cable from your phone and plug it in every time that you want to use that system. And folks are just used to those maps and they like it. The car does have a connected drive where it has maps, but it needs to connect to the internet to pull those down, and you can talk to the car and say, you know, route me to wherever, and it will do that. But for those who want to use Apple CarPlay, you're gonna have to plug it in. That said, there are 2 ports under here, 2 USB-A ports, so not the new high-powered USB-C ports, so you're gonna get a slower charge. But there is a Qi charger under here, but if you're using CarPlay, you're gonna have to plug in your phone anyway. So I'll close that little area up, and then you've got your cup holders here. Dual cup holders, pretty standard. And it's nice because there's not a ton of buttons here, but there's just the useful ones. You've got your drive mode. You can adjust or turn on the parking cameras if you need to, if you're in a parking lot or just want to see how close you are to a curb. Down here, I love this. Of course, you have a knurled volume knob and a tuning knob. Right there, they fall at your fingertips when you're driving, and they're beautifully done in this sort of aluminum, and they have a great feel to them, a great tactile feel. You're hitting the button down here, pops open your center armrest. You have a 12-volt sort of cigarette style outlet down here, but and you've got a little tray for storage, but nothing, you know, out of the ordinary there. There's still no USB-C ports here. Moving up to the gauge cluster, it has this really cool 3D effect, and it's hard to even kind of tell from where I'm sitting, but as the driver you can see that the gauges are 3-dimensional, and where you can see this the most is actually when you're changing drive mode. So if you go from eco to comfort to sport, there's a cool animation, and then back to eco, you can see the gauges move and kind of fluctuate and do their things, and that's kind of when it's the most 3D and it's the most animated. One of the things I wish this had, so this car has sort of, it's mimicking traditional gauges with the digital info cluster up front. I wish that the speedometer was smack in the middle and it just had a digital readout. The car has it, but it's in the head-up display. So you have to look up at the head-up display. And if you have polarized sunglasses on, this is not gonna happen. In fact, if you have sunglasses on that are polarized, you're not gonna see any of that head-up display information. So it would be nice if it were repeated down in the dash. I haven't figured out how to make that work, if it is at all possible. Moving on to the steering wheel, it's beautifully laid out. Again, at your fingertips, if your hands are on the wheel and not resting down here, you've got your volume knob over here, and you can adjust the tune and different screens and your driver assistant feature like the automatic cruise control and whatnot, which does work beautifully in this car. Just clean dash, I love it. And this Electrified G80 comes with a Lexicon 21 speaker sound system. It's something insane, over 1,000 watts of power, and it sounds really good. It's one of my favorite parts about this car. Now, I'm 5'9", and this seat that I'm sitting in, if I'm sitting straight forward, is all the way down. It doesn't go down any further, and there's not a lot of headroom here for me. And the reason is that Genesis had to lift the floor of the Electrified G80 to fit the battery pack. So not only do you lose a bit of headroom, so this car is not a car for taller drivers. There's no sunroof option at all on the Electrified G80 because they needed that extra space. So you cannot get any type of sunroof, moonroof, glass roof. It's not available. Let's take a move to the back seat because that's one of my most favorite parts about the Electrified G80. Welcome to the back seat of the Electrified G80. One of the nice things about this area is that you can kind of close it entirely off. So there are manual, but there are window shades on the side, and you can clip those in and out. And then there is a power window shade in the back, so you have sort of ultimate privacy. Now, while there is not a ton of headroom, if you're a long-legged person, this seat is pretty much almost all the way back. There's a lot of legroom. Again, 5'9", you've got this much space here. These seats are nicely sculpted out, so if you have knees, they'll fit right in these little spots. Down here, you've got your Mac pockets. And in the center console, not only can you open this up, and there's a lot of storage, and you have 2 USB-A ports, the big square USB ports down in here, so your backseat passengers can charge. You have a button here if you want to see out the back. You can kind of look out, see who's following you, and then not worry about it. Put it back up and tell your driver to go faster if someone's chasing you. No, don't drive fast. So over here you have your cup holders, and then down here you've got your full climate control, and right now I've got it set to auto and 72. So this car has three zones of climate. You've got your drivers, and then you've got your separate passengers, and then you've got the rear. So everybody can be at a different temperature and be comfy. One thing you cannot do in the back of the G80 Electrified is turn on your heated seats, because there are none. You do not have heated or cool seats available for the back seats of the G80. These are some of the most comfortable seats I've ever sat in. I will tell you that. If you are looking for comfortable seats, you need to sit in this car. So down here, you've got the lexicon, you've got 3 speakers in each door. So remember, there's 21 speakers in this car. They have to fit somewhere. I feel like royalty in the back of this car. I want to be driven places. So while I hate to leave the back of the electrified G80, I have to take it for a drive, which is actually a lot of fun, as you will see. And let's also take a look under the hood and the charging port, and then you get my fabulous favorites. I love the way the G80 is laid out under the hood. So it's super clean, this electrified version. You have your fuse box here, and if you ever have to give someone a jump start, you would put your positive cable here and your negative cable underneath this panel where there's a little negative symbol. You've got your windshield washer fluid and a couple coolants, and that's all you're ever gonna touch. The rest is pretty much for your dealership, and it shouldn't need much service at all because it's an electric vehicle. So one thing you'll note, there is no storage under here. There's no frunk because this was a gas car kind of converted to electric car. And it was built for the electrification and kind of dual purpose, but they didn't leave room for a frunk. So it's an unfortunate, this car, for any car that could really use a frunk, it's this one, because you've got that just under 11 cubic foot of space in the trunk. You need some more room somewhere if you're gonna take a big trip. So this isn't like the road trip, SUV. Genesis has other models for that, but again, no trunk. So coming back over here to the charge port, so this nicely opens up here, and as far as charge times, I love that there's no dangly things here. Well, actually, oh, there are dangly things. Well, anyway, I thought they flipped open. They don't. But your level 1, level 2, and level 3 CCS combo charger clunk in here, and what you're going to do is, if you're ever at a CCS charging station and you need to stop, you're on a road trip, you can charge from 10 to 80% in 22 minutes, which is lightning fast. So this can take advantage of 350 kilowatt hour chargers at Electrify America stations or other stations. I know that you get some free Electrify America charging with the Electrified G80. And another thing to note, if you're at home and you have a level 2 charger, 10 to 100% for this car is just going to be a bit around slightly under 9 hours, depending on the amperage of your charger. And then if you're going to do level 1 charging, you can spend a couple days plus and let that sort of marinate on the 120 volts of your wall outlet. So you would want a level 2 charger at home for this car for sure. Plug it in at night, you're ready to go the next morning with a full tank, not stopping at sketchy gas stations or anything like that. So that's nice. I love how integrated this is. I'm just going to give that a close and we're good to go. So let's go for a drive. Now we're finally out on the road in the G80. And one of the things to note about this cabin is how serene and how quiet it actually is. And this is due to a lot of factors. One, there's passive sound insulation with heavy sound deadening materials in the doors and in the acoustic glass and everything like that. There's also active noise canceling in this car, and what that does is send inverted sound waves to it. It has microphones. It listens to the road noise that's happening outside the car, and then it sends inverted signals through the speakers throughout the cabin, so you don't actually hear the sound waves coming at you. It sort of cancels them out. It's like two waves coming together in the ocean. Like they're just gonna cancel each other out. So what that means is like you don't have to do anything, you don't have to turn anything on. The car is just serene and quiet, and you notice that the minute you get in and shut the doors. Now, I'm in comfort mode currently, and another neat thing about this car is that in sport mode, it literally has just gobs of power. So if I get on it, and yeah, it just, the back end, I wouldn't say it squats, but it does squat down a little bit, puts that torque all the way to the rear wheels, and this car just hauls. In fact, I've been rolling wrong at 25 miles an hour, and if you're in sport mode and you hammer it, you can chirp those back tires, and there's not a lot of cars that can do that. They can do it from a stop, but not from moving. So, this car has all the power, but I like to drive in eco mode, and just for that smooth, luxurious ride, you're going to get that in all three. Another thing putting sport mode is it not only you know, puts all the power to the wheels that makes your accelerator pedal very responsive, but it tightens up the steering and it also tightens up the suspension. So it's going to change all of those factors to adjust to the driving condition that you select with the drive mode. The head-up display is working fine right now because I don't have my sunglasses on, so I can see exactly how I'm going. It's nice and it's clean because it's displaying not just the speed, but also the speed limit of the area. There's actually a speed limit sign in the head-up display, and then when a car is approaching me on the left, like that car, it told me that, hey, there's a car approaching. This car is fully loaded with all of the safety features that you would expect in a modern car, and usually cost, you know, a great deal more to add to the car. They're all included in this. You know, you've got active, passive safety features, everything from blind spot monitoring to pedestrian detection to radar cruise control, all the way from a 0. It's fully included and no extra packages to buy, none of that, you know, parsing things together and ordering a car. Electrified G80 is one trim and it's all-wheel drive and it comes with everything, including the stereo. So there's nothing more to add. I love driving this car. It's so smooth, I'm gonna have a hard time giving it back. Now it's time for my fabulous favorites and not so favorites about the Electrified G80. Fabulous favorite number 1, it gets 282 miles to a charge. You have 282 miles of range. That's pretty phenomenal for a large luxury car. Second fabulous favorite, the charging time, if you're on a road trip, of 10 to 80% in 22 minutes. That's fantastic. That's enough time to run in, use the facilities, get a snack, and you're good to go. So, fabulous favorite number 3, I love the subdued styling. The 2-line design works beautifully in this car, the way it wraps all the way around from the headlights to the side indicators integrated behind the front wheel to the rear end, and this beautifully sloped rear end, while it doesn't give you a lot of trunk space. It looks so good, and that's important because you want to look back at your car after you park it and the lights flash and just be like, dang, that's my car. It looks really good. Other fabulous favorites, having that V2L capability, phenomenal, and then just the luxury inside and the interior, and that Lexicon 21 speaker sound system is my favorite. I can't stop listening to music in this car, and why would you want to? So of course my not so favorites about this car. The cargo space. There needs to be a frunk. If you're gonna eliminate space back here, you've got to give people someplace. I had a friend look at this car and he saw the trunk, is like, nope, that's not gonna work for me. But it could work for you if you're not carrying around a ton of stuff on big trips, or if you're a light packer. And if you wanted to, if it was 2 people in the car, you could put a ton of things in the rear seat area. That not cargo area, but that rear seat area is huge. Another not so favorite about the car, the knobs for the shifter and the infotainment are of the same size and they're right next to each other. That could just be a little better. That's a very small thing. There's so much to like about this car that my not so favorites list is that's about it. You know, I'm 5'9". That this car does not, you know, challenge me for the height. I wish it had a moon roof that opened, of course, like I do all my cars, but that's just not an option here. What I will say is that if you are a tall driver, this is going to be a challenging car for you to fit in, just because you have that reduced headroom. If you have long legs, the car is going to be fine, but if you have a long torso, you're going to be a little bit challenged. So that's it for the Genesis G80 Electrified all-wheel drive review. Please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Be kind and have a good day.